Joining us tonight. This is our first Whole Child Series event of the year. We have our topic tonight, back to school, coping skills and goal setting with some of our LISD counselors and social workers. So I'll tell you a little bit more about some of our other events in just a second, but this is our first one of the year and we're excited to have some of our department here to speak to y'all. So make sure my technology is working. Okay. My name is Amber Taylor. I'm one of the coordinators in the Counseling and Social Work Department. SAP and Choices are a couple of the programs that I get to work with. And there's a link to our website there for Choices. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the resources that are there later in the session. Couple of housekeeping things. If you are here as an LISD staff member and you would like to earn credit in Strive/Eduphoria, whatever you call it, or whether it's for November trade or you just so that you have that credit in there for professional learning that you are here with us tonight, please make sure that you're registered. There is the link that'll get you straight to that place to register once you log into Strive or Eduphoria. If you're not already registered, it is still open. So just, click on add that, start registering while you're in there, and that'll allow us to go back afterwards and give you credit for being here. The other part of that is to make sure you do the survey at the end, because that's kind of the two things we have to match up, where they registered in Strive, Eduphoria, and then the survey at the end. So, and if you have any difficulties with those, any questions, you can email me, and obviously won't answer right this second, but I'll get to you soon. And let's see. A couple of norms for tonight's session. We would love for you to be present and actively engaged, learning about this topic. It's a great topic for our students. All of you are working with students, whether it's as a parent, as a teacher, paraprofessional, someone in our school, or a parent in the home. And so there's lots of great things to learn for them, but also we can get those things too, right? Like I love those things that can help me and also my children. So it should be a great session, something for everybody. Your microphone should already be on mute. I think I got the settings right to keep everybody muted coming in instead of those thousands of beeps that sometimes we get to hear. So if you'll just stay muted, if you have questions, you can put those in the chat or you can email me. And just be aware of your technology. If you want to keep your camera off, you are welcome to. That's not part of our attendance, and sometimes that helps the system to run more smoothly. If you like the camera on and you want to be able to see and engage with people, that's totally fine too, but that's up to you. And again, LISD staff, just make sure that you're that you're registered, and that you do the survey at the end. If you experience any technical difficulties, just join us as soon as you can. Sometimes it, times out or kicks you out for a second or whatever. Just join us again. If you have trouble, reach out and let us know. We also will load a recording. Now the credit for staff does have to be the live attendance, but if there's technical difficulties and you're trying to just get the content, you can always go back to the website later to watch that. And we hope that you enjoy the session. We've got a lot of great things to share with you today. So we have two speakers. Our first speaker is Josie Kilgore. She is the counselor at Highland Village Elementary. And then we are going to hear also from McKenna Bishop, who is one of our district social workers in the Counseling and Social Work Department and serves our students there. So awesome experts in our department that we are excited to hear from. I am going to continue to share the presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Josie to speak, and I'm hoping maybe I just need to unmute. So I'm going to turn my stuff on. Give me a second to transfer it over to her, and she will share some things with you.
Everybody hear me? Oh, awesome, thank you. And then also my screen went white, so I was like, my name is Josie Kilgore. I am the counselor at Highland Village Elementary, and I am so excited tonight, not only to be sharing with you one of my all-time favorite topics and my favorite things to do with students, but also because McKenna is my social worker, and so I feel like we're repping tonight. So what I am going to talk to you about tonight is some tips on yourself and guiding your students through setting attainable goals, or as it is known in my house, doing one better. And I'll kind of fill you in on where that came from. But first, I want to talk to you about how to set specific goals that are more easy and adaptable. So, with students, talk about set smart goals. If you're sure you have some time, if you have heard it, I'm excited to SMART goals. What I mean is that they're measurable, attainable, and you can kind of talk about this.
Josie, we can barely hear you. It's kind of cutting in and out. Sorry.
No, thanks for telling me.
Oh, that's much smoother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ugh, okay. Well, I'm in Dallas, and sometimes they like limit our power because they don't have enough here.
Okay. But that's better. So go ahead.
Is this better? Am I good? Okay, good, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so I'm going to go into each piece, kind of what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, and then I will teach you my do one better method. So the first part of a SMART goal is specific. What we're looking for is one piece of the puzzle. We don't necessarily want to go huge picture at this point. We want to pick one thing and then work on that one thing. So an example of that would be something very detailed. I will increase my math score. A non-example would be something very vague. I want to get good at math. The reason that we want something more specific is because I will get good at math doesn't carry just a ton of meaning. And it doesn't really give you anything to aim for. So we're looking for one specific thing that you're going to do. So you pick, I'm going to increase my math score, and you work on that one thing. The next thing we're going to look for is that it is measurable. If we stop with, I'm going to increase my math score, again, how do you know when you've met that goal? It's very nebulous. So we're talking about quantifying not only where you want to go, but also where you're starting. If you don't have a firm grasp on where you're starting, it's hard to really see the progress that you've made. So an example would be, I'll increase my math score from 72 to 80 versus just, I'm going to increase my math score. The A in a SMART goal is that it's achievable. You can reasonably meet that goal. And this one comes with a bit of a caveat. So the reason that I chose, I will increase my math score from 72 to 80 is that that's not really daunting. It's doable. 8 points, you can work with 8 points. What we don't want to see is I will increase my math score from 12 to 80. Again, we're doing something very specific. We don't want the whole puzzle. We're just looking at one piece of it. I'm not saying that overall goal on goal won't add up to you've increased your math score from 12 to 80. But what I am saying is that we want to break it down into little achievable bits that we're not feeling overwhelmed or defeated whenever we're failing to go from 12 to 80. The next one, and this is a big one for us adults, it has to matter to you. And when I say that, I really want you to focus on it has to matter to your students. A fear of you being upset or you being disappointed will only take someone so far. And as adults, we understand that. There's only so much I will do to make another person happy. But when it is an intrinsic value to me, I'll work for it, just kind of nonstop. So we want to look for things that are very personal. Why do you want to increase your math score? And it cannot be so I'm not in trouble. It has to be something that they're looking for example, so I can make AB honor roll, something like that, so that it's very relevant to your student. Or if it's for you, it cannot be for a spouse or a significant other, or so that your team to be something that helps that even when it's frustrating. And the last one is timed. One thing that we kind of do, and it's a real pitfall, is that we'll set this goal, but we don't really have a deadline on it. And so if your goal is, I'm going to run a mile, I mean, when? Because you could work on running a mile for the next 20 years, but at some point you're going to get bored with that. It's not going to matter to you anymore. You need to set that deadline. So for this example, it was, I want to increase my math score from 72 by 8 to 80 by October 19th so I can make the AB honor roll. We're very specific. We can measure it. It's attainable. It's totally doable. It's relevant to us. And then also I have a deadline to meet. And that deadline kind of tricks your brain into maintaining that push and keeping the drive going. So it's not just kind of like nebulous at some point in my life. All right, so here's the trap. We have our SMART goal, we're ready, and then all of us have done this before where we have these big goals for ourselves, and then we fail to meet those goals, and it's very defeating, and our students are not immune from that, unfortunately. So there are some stories that we have a tendency to tell ourselves whenever that kind of thing happens. I failed to meet my goals, so now I'm a failure. I didn't do the whole entire thing, so whatever, I'm done. And every single time that you kind of fall into that trap, it makes it harder to pick yourself up and try again. And so I'm going to kind of talk you through some ways to escape that trap. But first, I'm going to tell you a story. So I know that all of you are looking at me and you're like, Josie, you've never had to struggle for anything. You clearly totally have your life together. And that is true, not really. But so here's my story. I have what I would probably call an addiction to Reese's peanut butter cups. I don't know what the problem is, but if you hand me one of those big party bags of Reese's peanut butter cups, it's probably going to be gone like by the next day. It's over. And so at some point in my life, I was like, I'm going to cut out sugar. Now, I could have gone from eating a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups to 0 sugar, and that may have worked for a day or two, but I think we all know what would have happened. I would have slipped up one time, felt bad, and then eaten the entire bag. We've all been there. Y'all all eat entire bags of Reese's peanut butter cups, I can tell. So what we want to do instead of that is start where you are. If I'm eating a giant party bag of Reese's peanut butter cups every day, which I was, I'm not going to go from that to 0 sugar because that's crazy. What I am going to do is take note of how many peanut butter cups I'm eating on that day. And then the next day, I'm going to do one better. I need one fewer peanut butter cup because that is doable. I'm going to start exactly where I am, and then I'm going to take the next step, which, by the way, I've done this. Doable. Now, that being said, if you give me a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups, I will still probably eat all of them, and there's just nothing to be done about that. But the next thing that I want you to do is when you have the whole bag of peanut butter cups, the next day you eat one fewer peanut butter cup, celebrate. That is huge. You are making progress, and honoring that progress, you keep going. And then my favorite step of all of that is study the struggle. Whenever you have those days where it was a rough day at work, you got stuck in traffic, you come home and your amazing husband has bought you peanut butter cups because he loves you and is also secretly your enabler, and you eat them all. Look at that. Look at what happened to kind of get you to that point where you were struggling, because that's going to help you decide what steps to make going forward. So you look at that whole story, you ate all the peanut butter cups, it's too late, you're sick now. Look at what can I do when I'm having a rough day? What can I do when traffic is terrible? How can I release that stress before I eat the entire bag of peanut butter cups? So I really want you to take those 3 things into account. You're going to start wherever you are. You're going to do one better than that. We're not moving mountains. We are chipping away one little rock at a time. Celebrate your victories. Every single time you do slightly better is a victory, period. That is progress, and progress is what we're looking for. And then when you do have those little missteps, whenever it is a struggle and today you just did, look at those, because all of those struggles are like little litmus tests for the areas in your life that you can kind of shore up and take care of yourself a little bit better so that you can continue to grow in your goal setting. You it just is everybody. What I want is for you, for your a written record of all the times that you succeeded, all those little steps, so that when you do as a child, you can look back and go, okay, 10 is vital. I want you to do themselves great. Tell them great. Do so what I want you to do and yourself true. This is what I've
It's breaking up again. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Yeah, there it goes again. It's better now.
Oh, the more I move, I don't know if I can sit still. Okay, that's it. Stop telling yourself scary stories. And make sure that you are telling yourself the truth. So our attainable goal, just recapping, we're going to start SMART. You cannot track a vague goal. Make sure that it is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timed. Step 2, do one better. You're not trying to move mountains. We are taking one step at a time. And then step 3, celebrate each step, every progress, and extend yourself the grace to stumble and then start again.
We have some requests for you to do the previous slide one more time so they can
do it. I love it.
I think I have to go there. It worked. Okay.
The whole thing?
I think so on this one.
Okay, so here's your toolkit for the do one better. Number 1, you've got to write down what you've done. Your brain is wired to completely forget about all the progress you've made and just focus on the struggles. It's everybody's brain is, including your student's brain. You need a written record of all the times that you've succeeded so that when you do stumble, you can look back and go, okay, today was rough, but I have made one better for 10 days in a row. The second thing, you've got to be able to extend grace, not only to yourself, but encourage your student to extend grace to themselves. Whenever we struggle, we tend to tell ourselves scary stories. It can feel very fatalistic. I can't do this. I'm a failure. It's too hard. And then you get into like, I'm never going to be able to, all that stuff. What I'm asking for is that you guide your students in extending grace to themselves. Make them look back at that progress and say, today was a struggle. Honor that struggle. Look at it. Why was it a struggle? But also, we've already done this much. We can keep going. This is hard, but I've made this progress. I can keep going, and kind of extend that grace to yourself, to your students throughout all your goal setting. And here are some resources. The first one is just a really generic SMART goal worksheet that you can do with your students. The second one is the one that I personally use with my students, because at the bottom of it, it has where you can even break that goal down into even more steps. So there are little squares at the bottom where you can say, okay, so step 1 of that is I'm going to do this by this day. And so I highly recommend either of those. I personally use the second one.
Thank you so much, Josie. That was really good information for all of us. I'm going to turn things over. I think I've unmuted McKenna now, so hopefully that worked. Yay.
Hi, can everyone hear me really well?
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. Hi, I'm McKenna Bishop. I am a district social worker and I work with elementary students primarily. I have the Flower Mound Marcus pattern, so love those little kiddos. I also have experience working with middle school and high school students in a group therapy setting years prior to doing school social work. So hopefully I can get us started on these coping skills and kind of talk about why they're important. And if you want to jump into the chat with me, as I might be asking you questions, feel free to put everything in on the chat, or you can wave your hand if you'd like to talk through video. And trying to get to the next screen. Sorry, guys. All right, so coping skills. We're going to talk about why coping skills are important, but I like to say you say tomato, I say tomato, because a lot of us can do these coping skills, like distraction, staying busy. Some people might think running is a really good coping skill. It is not a good coping skill for me. I am not a runner. So you say tomato, I say tomato, because what works for you might not work for someone else or even for kids. And coping skills can help us manage the way we choose to respond to our thoughts and feelings. So, a lot of times when you're having big emotions, when you're having negative feelings, this can be anxiety, depression, anger, stress. And the coping skills are going to help us manage the way we control that so that we can feel a little better and not focus on all those negative feelings. They help deal with stressful situations to manage the stress, and you just feel better physically and psychologically. You're going to start to relax a little, maybe focus on something else other than what you're going through at the moment. Some helpful coping skills are I like to categorize them so it's a little easier to explain. You can have distractions, things that distract you from negative feelings. We'll go through some examples in a minute, but these are things like I said, going for a run, maybe drawing, painting, any type of art activity. Sometimes it's playing a sport. Sometimes puzzles are a really good distraction for you. When you're focused on something else, you're not hyper focused on your negative feelings. And then these are some examples. So, sports, football, basketball, dancing, soccer, things that can keep you active and distracted from those negative thoughts, right? Drawing. For young kids, like Play-Doh creations and Lego building, it's really good. It gets their mind kind of on something else that distracts them, but also they're creating something, they're building something, their mind is in a different place. And hopefully, the goal is to get them back on track with what they're doing. A lot of people like reading books, riding bikes, like I said, doing puzzles. And for toddlers, if you have them, sensory toys are really good for that because their mind is focused on the sensory itself. A lot of games, which you can use in classrooms too. A lot of teachers have calm down corners. Crossword puzzles, word searches, board games, dot to dot activities. You can have like 1 through 10 and they can connect the dots to build a picture. So that it helps their mind distract from whatever's going on with them. And some other ones that we're going to go through are mindfulness skills. And these are my favorites. These mindfulness will help us focus our attention on something and observe our own thoughts. This for me is one of my most difficult thoughts because mindfulness takes place up here in your head. These are things like grounding techniques. It's really good for anxiety. When you're in a busy place, you're around a lot of people, you can't handle that situation. The grounding technique is to do, let's say, 5 things you can hear, 4 things you can see, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell. It's one thing you can taste, but if you're in a busy area, it's like I'm gonna think of chocolate cake because I really like chocolate cake, and that's gonna put me in a different space. I'm gonna be focused on all of these sensations and not on everything else that's going around making me feel so anxious. Sometimes this is counting exercises in your head. You can count backwards from 10, you can count in multiples of 7, you can be in a busy area counting the number of red doors. You can count how many people are wearing tennis shoes. It's going to help your mind focus on something else. Same with imagining you're in your safe space and redecorating your bedroom in your head. These work really well, I think, for middle school students. They have that capacity to really visualize a lot of things and create these, create worlds. They're very creative, trying to find themselves. Planning a vacation in your head. So, like, think of your favorite vacation. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to be with? What are you going to wear? What are you going to pack? You're going through all those motions. You're not focused on the negative feelings. Visualizing your pets. And kids of all ages I've worked with, sometimes they get really upset, and I'm like, "Hey, you have a dog named Coco, right? What does Coco look like? You never told me what Coco looks like." And then they can visualize their pet, and they're focused on their pet that they love. They have warm feelings too. They play with every day. It's gonna put their mind somewhere else. And then another good one is like thinking about seasons, what you like about each one. So spring, flowers, like what's your favorite flower? And then winter, it's like the snow. How does snow make you feel? It's cold. And so your mind is hyper focused on other things. You're being mindful about your own thoughts, focusing your behavior on something else. This is a really good technique, like I said, for anxiety. Sometimes when you're depressed, you're kind of stuck in your own thoughts. You could say, hey, like again, visualize your pet. And a lot of times it helps in that mindful way. I think for me, it's mindful techniques are hard because if I'm going and focused on so much, I get stressed out. I don't want to sit there and think about things. I'm more of a distraction person where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go walk outside for a minute, and that's going to help me feel better, and I'm going to get back on track with what I'm doing. So like I said, tomato, not all of this is going to work, but it's a try to get kids back on track or yourself back on track if this is something you feel could help you. And then relaxation techniques and soothing skills. These could be many things. They could also be distraction or mindfulness skills, but soothing skills can help you feel better too. A lot of breathing techniques. So deep breathing and dolphin breathing. I do this with kids. It's like a dolphin. You breathe in and dive into the sea. And then flower breathing. Pretend you're smelling a flower and blowing a leaf. You're breathing in, you're breathing out. And then butterfly breathing for visual learners. It's you're breathing like a butterfly with your wings. Sometimes movement with focusing on breathing can help kids back on track. Walking also, if it's a distraction, it could help you relax and kind of focus on your heart rate. If you're really angry, sometimes getting outside and going for a walk will help you come back to a resting place. Listening to music, playing musical instruments. For little kids and for me myself, to get me to go to sleep, it's listening to sounds, like using sound machines, having the sound of birds, the sound of rain. That's going to help you naturally. Your brain is going to focus on those sounds and come back to a resting spot. Yoga, stretching. I call this making a pizza. You can stretch on the ground and literally make a pizza while stretching your legs, and it helps kids focus on something. And I don't know who can get down like that and touch their toes, but if kids can, that's great, and it's going to help them feel better. Can anyone, after going through all these skills, tell me what coping skills that you find yourself doing that helps you, that maybe you didn't see on this slideshow yet? Sometimes it helps people. You could put it on the chat. Yeah, drawing, that's a great one. Like artwork, just you're creating something, you're focusing on something else, you're moving. Coloring, that's a good one too. Bike riding, me too. I have not biked in forever. I'm waiting for it to get cooler. Laughing with coworkers, that's a good one. Yeah, being with people. It's not always being on your own. Coping skills are going to help us when there are things we could do on our own to help manage our feelings, but being with friends and family, that is a coping skill. Working out, cross stitching. I wish I could do that. Shooting hoops. You guys got a lot of good ones. Cooking for me too. I like being in the kitchen baking. Sometimes if I feel really upset, I'm kind of going through grief, I'm missing people, I'll get in the kitchen and just cook something and focus my mind on that. And it does help me feel better. And then I got food, for self-care. Yeah, cooking, listening to music. These are great ones. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Walking your dog. Yeah, like I said, if you have kids, go take the dog for a walk. You're taking care of someone else, and your kid is going to be walking and focusing on walking. I love these. Eating chocolate, that's a good one. I love seeing all these ones in the thing. Yeah, fireplace in cold weather. So focusing yourself somewhere else, right? Staying busy. Um, I like to kind of give examples with kids because all of us kind of experience feelings in different ways and we don't process in the same way. So little ones, I find a lot of times I'll have like kinder and first grade come into the school and their shoes are untied or they're fighting with their parents about the shoes they want to wear, or you can't get your kid out of the house, right? Because they just won't put on their shoes. And sometimes it's like, you can wear your house slippers, it's fine. But in that moment, that child is kind of stressed out about something and it's not coming together for the shoe issue, right? So you might immediately say, hey, jump up and down 5 times. Or what color is that bird on the tree? It's been making a lot of noise. Kind of focusing them on something else or something active hopefully gets them back on track. And then they won't be focusing on those negative feelings with their shoes anymore. That's the goal for this. And same with us. A lot of times it's easier said than done when you're really upset to say, hey, go draw something or go cook in the kitchen. But staying busy, putting our mind on something else, the goal is set so you don't feel so stressed out or bad anymore with your feelings. You're not focused on that negative feeling anymore. And if you keep yourself busy and continuously doing these skills, it's going to help manage those feelings. Um, yeah, those are great examples, you guys. What's after relaxation? Let's see. Oh, positive self-statements. This is a good one, yet a hard one. So these are, I like to say I am statements. Writing down positive self-statements when you feel really down about yourself. My high schoolers that have low self-esteem, they don't like the way they look. They don't like their outfit today. They're kind of down on themselves. I think we can all be there sometimes. You can say these things. You know, I am a great friend. I am a fantastic writer. I am a beautiful dancer. I am a wonderful sister. These are just examples that I thought of myself. You are a great mother. You are a good friend. You are a fantastic gardener. You run so well. Those positive statements you can tell yourself. It's going to build up that self-esteem. It's going to help you get out of that dark spot with yourself and hopefully feel better. Sometimes writing these down helps. A lot of high school students I've talked to, they have bathroom mirrors and they'll get like expo markers they can wash off. They'll write these positive statements all over their mirror so they see it every morning. I got a lot of girls that do that, and it helps them start their day off by those positive statements. I think this can help you a lot too with yourself. Like, we can all do this. Maybe start a journal. We talked about writing and journaling our goals. Writing is a coping skill. Maybe write down like 5 positive things about yourself. Start with I am. It's a little easier to build, and try to focus it on yourself, right? Real statements that you can give yourself to feel better. Sometimes journaling this helps a lot when kids are feeling really down about themselves, maybe commenting about how they look. This also helps when you want to focus it on someone else. If you're really missing someone or you're really worried about someone else, maybe write down a journal, positive statements about them. Like, I really like communicating with them. I hope they get better. I'll keep them in my prayers. These positive statements are going to help, but the self statements can help children and yourself come down to a resting place where you feel better because you're giving yourself so much I guess, like so many compliments, right? In a really good way about your personality. You're a great friend. You have these qualities about yourself that you need to believe, and it's going to help you feel better about yourself. So this is a good coping skill also. And that is it for coping skills. Does anyone have any questions about maybe being kind of sketched out about coping skills and how they can help you manage your feelings? Or if you want to share anything for anyone else, you feel free to do that in the chat. Talk to a friend. That's a good one. A lot of times having that support system in place for kids, I wanted to touch on that, is really good too. A lot of kids, if they can name 3 people in their support system, that is pretty solid. And those are people you can go to if you need to talk to someone. Those are people you trust. These are adults you can go to. These are family members you can go to. These are friends that you enjoy talking to. So being around that support system is going to help you feel better. It's going to help you not focus on yourself and your negative feelings so much. And you're going to interact with other people. And maybe group settings, when you talk about your feelings, are also really good for kids, because they might hear another kid say, hey, I am so stressed out about club soccer and school soccer. I don't know what, I don't want to do one of them. I can't tell my parents. I'm so stressed out I cannot sleep. Another kid is like, I'm going through the same thing with my parents. And it's like, well, how do you feel better? And that what works for someone might work for them, and you'll learn things, right? So group settings and support systems are very important. And I'll end that note on coping skills unless anyone would like to add anything else.
We have a question about when a student is kind of already in that depressive spiral and can't think of their own positive things. You know, if you say, tell me something positive, and they're like, nothing, what do you recommend that they would do?
I would recommend distractions, like activities. So a lot of times when someone feels so bad and they're in such a negative space and they don't like anything about themselves, you got some deeper feelings going on. So the positive self statements might not help, but the distractions is a good starting point. Staying busy, interacting with them, that support system helps. The distractions, I think keeping their hands moving, right? Keeping them in a different space than where they're at. So going for a walk, taking a walk outside, painting something, like, hey, you're feeling a lot right now. Why don't you use paint? Some like healthy anger techniques, maybe like squeeze a stress ball, get some of that out. Movements, I think, are going to help. I've noticed that with kids when I've worked with them, when they are in that spiral, they're crying coming into school, they don't want to talk to anyone, they throw themselves on the floor. We see that a lot with little kids, sometimes older kids too. They're trying to figure themselves out, and sometimes they can't name that feeling that they're feeling. uh, like I said, focusing them on something they like. Hey, you told me you watched Scooby-Doo. You want to talk about Scooby-Doo. Sometimes they don't want to talk. Maybe put a puzzle or a game that you know they like, or in their age group. If you work with kids, you're going to know what kids gravitate towards. Maybe put that in front of them and see if it catches their eye. Those distractions are going to help keep them busy. The goal is to get them back on track so they don't continue in that spiral. So sometimes jumping in with that distraction is going to help. And that's what I found works with me most times when they're in that spiral.
Awesome.
Oh, I like this comment in here. Sorry, I just noticed this,
Oh, I
Amber.
know. We're both like, oh, that's good. Yeah. And that's that heavy work too.
Great, yeah. Let me read some of these real quick for there we go. Help them distract. For older students in a depression gap, does asking them to talk or draw about something they're good at help them distract, engage them with what they know and feel comfortable with? I think so too. With teenagers, middle school students, college students, they're still trying to figure themselves out. That depression gap. You're showing interest in them. You're kind of giving those positive reinforcements, like high fiving and engaging with them to focus on something that, yeah, if you know they like to draw and you're not in a space where like your classroom could draw, maybe have them sit in a corner and say, hey, why don't you draw this for me, and have a goal towards it. Those goals that we talked about are going to help too when you have kids that are very depressed or stuck in that space. Those distractions and noticing kind of what helps them. Like I have a kid that has these moments of spirals. He is really good at football, like thrives in football practice. So it's like, hey, let's throw a football for a few minutes, and that distraction sometimes helps them get out of that for a moment. Um, have them help you carry some books to another teacher for you and make them feel like you need their help. That is good. Yeah. Say, hey, I actually have to do this thing. It would mean the world to me. If I had help, do you know anyone that would want to do that? Right? Give them that choice to how they want to help themselves feel better, and make Sometimes making kids feel included is really what it's about, that validation that they're important, they're there, you're there for them. That support system is going to come into place, and they're again going to be focused on carrying the books. So it's kind of two in one. And sometimes kids need to be comfortable with silence. I agree with that too. Sometimes giving people a moment and then having them practice a coping skill on their own is going to help. I like this in the chat. I'm going to read it. Sometimes telling them that it's okay to have those feelings, but you do not want to remain there indefinitely. Yeah, sometimes feelings are only temporary. And adults, we have a good understanding of that, right? Like, this is only temporary. I'm not going to feel bad forever. Kids are stuck in that, right? They can't name their feeling. They don't want to talk about what's going on. They're not sure how to manage that feeling. So you can say, hey, this is just temporary. Sometimes they might not understand that. But sometimes those words of affirmation, like, you're doing such a good job today, this is temporary, why don't you draw me a photo of this, like 4 photos, make a story, and give them something to do. Also, like, they have read every Harry Potter book, be like, there's a new Harry Potter book, do you want to read it? If that was it, it's easy to know that with kids because you kind of see what they gravitate towards. So I love that. All right. Thanks for the chat, everyone. Thank you for participating. I loved hearing everyone's thought on this, and your questions are really great questions. I hope I was able to answer them well, and I'm glad you guys are here learning all this today.
Awesome. So I'm going to share a few more things, some things about our program, a couple of resources. But before we move into that part, I want to do one more little activity on the end, kind of piggyback on McKenna's slide here. I would love everyone, active participation, right? To share one of their positive self statements with us, like in the chat. If you can say, I am something, tell us something positive about you. And we don't have to read them out. Maybe we can, it's okay.
We just keep it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Are y'all going to be
It's
shy?
gonna help us
Maybe,
in this
maybe.
moment.
It's hard to say positive things about ourselves, right? But y'all are all awesome and have things. So,
Yeah.
watching, waiting, anybody? Somebody said earlier, be comfortable with the silence. So that's true. We can wait a second. Anybody? Oh, I think people are, let me scroll.
I love them.
Here we go. Yes.
You
That's
got some
awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
Awesome. Now they're popping up. New message, new message. So good.
oh, I love these.
This is so cool, y'all.
You guys are just warming my heart. And I want you to really believe these things too. Like Amber said, it's really hard to think about what we like about ourselves and what's good about ourselves. But these positive statements will help you get back on track, help you feel good. And it's good for kids to do this too. Oh, these are great.
This is so cool.
This is so neat. I get to learn so much about you guys. Thanks for sharing all this and really participating in this. It's awesome.
And like she said, write these on your mirror, write these, put that card somewhere, that positive statement about yourself, and your kids will learn from that too. They'll wait, oh wait, it's okay to say a positive thing about myself. Like, oh, my teacher's doing that. My mom's doing that. Like, I can see, yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it has a lot of power too.
All right, well, I'm gonna start clicking through to the next slide, but y'all keep going. If you're still thinking of positive things, or keep just sharing those, it's awesome. All right, I'm gonna skip through to these. Had a couple of just things to show y'all on these slides. Here's an example. This is a resource that I follow on social media with the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding. There's lots of great visuals like this out there. If you're on, maybe a lot of you are on Teachers Pay Teachers, you can search for those free resources, and there's lots of great stuff like this to put up in your classroom or in your home, or just to get that visual to walk through. And then we're thinking fall vibes. We're pretending that it feels like fall already, right? So there's a little pumpkin that you can do, kind of that tracing breathing, deep breathing with your students or your children or yourself. I always just say like, let's take a breath. Like, and when I'm stressed out, that's what I need to do. I need to take that moment and take the breath and let everything kind of calm down. So there's lots of different types of breathing activities. And like McKenna said, not everything is for everybody. Box breathing makes me dizzy. So that's not going to be my breathing exercise, but there's lots of different ways to do that. And for kids, lots of creative ways. So anything like, you can look for these different things online to seasonal or whatever kind of things that your kids like. So anyway, just a couple of cool resources there to share. And then I wanted to talk to y'all about just some of our programs that we have coming up. So this is the Choices website. It's on the LISD page under the Counseling and Social Work Department. Lots of good resources there. We have, like I said, this is our first whole child series of the year. We are going to have them about once a month this year. So that's an increase from the past, which we're excited about. Most of them will be on WebEx. I know that's more accessible for a lot of people. So we do have a few in person that we just felt would be better to be together for. So you can click that link there or go to lisd.net/choices. You can Google LISD choices and that will come up. But just to give y'all an idea of some of the upcoming ones, next month for Red Ribbon Month, we have drugs and alcohol, the latest trends with the DEA special agent in charge. He spoke with us last year also, and it was great to hear kind of trends and what's going on, just so that we're aware. So we're excited to have him back. We have suicide prevention for our November session. In December, we'll be in person with Mapping the SEL World with our counseling and social work coordinators. In January, we have a great presentation on anxiety, reframing, grounding, and mindfulness. We'll talk about technology and social media in February. We've got hard conversations with your kids. We know those happen, right? That's in March, and that will be with some of your LISD counselors and social workers. In April, so if you're attending for trade credit, the April and May will not count because it's after the deadline, but it's still great stuff, so come and join us. We have trauma-informed parenting and teaching, and then in May, human trafficking. So all of that to just show you, some of the great topics that we're excited to share with you. All of the dates will be they're on the website now. All the links and everything, flyers, everything's in there. So they're generally Tuesdays, 6 to 8, but at Choices, at the Choices website, all of that is out there. But I'll tell you, October is on the 4th. And then we also have Love and Logic. That is a 3-series course. Like you go through all 3 to get, the full experience. You're welcome to drop into just 1 or 2 if that's, all that you can make. But to get the full thing, it would be to attend all 3. And so we do that twice a year, fall and spring. And so our fall series is going to be in October, and that date is starting on the 11th. So on the 4th, we'll have Whole Child with our DEA agent representative, and then Love and Logic starts on the 11th, and then on the 18th and 25th. And then we have Medication Disposal Day. We also have that twice a year. Another partnership that we have with the DEA and our area police departments, collecting any of your unused, extra, expired medication. And we have locations at each of the high schools, or in each of the high school feeder patterns. So all of that information is on the Choices website. Your campuses should be kind of sharing things. Also, you can follow us on Facebook at LISD Choices, and we share information there also. So we would love to have kind of that, interaction and following on social media. So join us there. And then also another resource on our counseling portion of the LISD website, under lisd.net/counseling. We have just some other parent and community resources that might be helpful. So wanted to make sure everybody was aware of lots of the good things that are on the website. And then I'm going to click through. Okay.